a girl with dreams so wide. The days turn heavy like an unseen rift. The girl that I was began to fade, and in her place, a new self was made.
I didn't start this journey because I was motivated. I started it because I realized I wasn't really present in my own life, not with my husband, and not even with my kids. I was there, I was doing what needed to be done, but I wasn't with them, and I didn't know it at the time. But that realization would end up changing everything. Not just for me, but in a way that eventually led me to start sharing this journey out loud. At that point in my life, I had really low energy. Most days after work, I would just lay down and I was carrying a lot of extra weight to the point where it was affecting how I felt in my body every day. Even simple things felt harder than they should have. I was doing the bare minimum to get through the day, and that was it. And I was so focused on how I felt about myself that I didn't have anything left to give to anyone else. And I think something important to understand is this didn't come out of nowhere. I had been in survival mode for a while. My son Gabriel had cancer, and that changed everything for me. For a long time, I was just trying to get through each day. I didn't have the capacity to think about myself. I wasn't a priority at all. And if I'm being honest, there were times I didn't even like my husband. Not because of one big thing, but because I had completely disconnected. I shut down. I went into survival mode. And somewhere along the way, I lost connection with myself and with people around me without even realizing it. But there came a point where I had to pause because I didn't like that version of me. And I knew something needed to change. Before I started recording this podcast, I had already been on this journey for a few months. And I think it's important to share how I got here because this didn't start with a perfect plan. It started with small moments where I began listening. The first thing I noticed was my body was trying to tell me something. I was dealing with swelling, joint pain, and I realized gluten was a big trigger for me. My back hurt so bad, and my sciatica was so bad. I could barely walk. I ended up going to the emergency room, and the doctor basically said, "Yeah, we'll give you some prednisone." And then he asked me, "Have you peed yourself yet?" Um, and I remember thinking, "What?" I said, "No." And I asked, "Am I going to?" He said, "Sometimes that happens with sciatica." And right then and there, I just thought, I do not want to be the person who ends up peeing themselves because of this. So I went home and I started doing my own research. And I came across the idea that it could be a gluten sensitivity. I stopped eating gluten. And that was the first time I felt like, okay, my body is responding. From there, I just kept taking small steps. I set a goal to walk 8,000 steps a day, not because it was perfect, but because it was something I could actually follow through on. And it was winter when I set this goal. It was freezing outside, and I had actually gotten rid of my treadmill because I hate feeling like a hamster on a wheel. But I made this promise to myself, and I was going to keep it. So I started walking the hallway at home. We have a long hallway, but honestly, I don't even think it would have mattered if it was a short hallway. I just kept going back and forth every night until I hit my goal. And I did it every single night because this was a promise I was keeping to myself for once. And I was going to do it the same way I've always shown up for everyone else because I have a history of not keeping promises to myself, but not this time. I made a doctor's appointment to check my hormones because I hadn't had a period in almost a year and I knew something wasn't right. Everything came back normal and I started a low dose progesterone pill. And that helped more than I expected, especially with my mood and how I was feeling mentally. Around the same time, I started reconnecting with my faith. I began reading the Bible in a year starting in February. And I think faith for me has been a little like looking at a picture. You know how you only see a small piece and it doesn't really make sense at first? That's how it's felt because I grew up in the church. I knew some of the stories I've heard, sermons, gone to Sunday school, youth group, church camp. So it's not like this was new to me. But recently, I started reading the Bible in chronological order through a Bible app. And I feel like I'm finally starting to see more of the picture. The pieces are coming together in a different way. And I feel closer to God because I'm actually getting to know Him. And I also started noticing the ways I was escaping my life, like constantly reading romance novels instead of actually being present in it. So I started stepping away from that too. And probably one of the hardest parts was realizing I didn't really have the relationship I wanted with my husband, not because of anything big or anything wrong, but because I wasn't showing up. So I started working on being more present, listening more, engaging more, and somewhere along the way, I stopped trying to escape my life and started participating in it. And as I started changing, I realized something else. I didn't just want to grow on my own. I wanted to connect with other women and learn from them too. I wanted to hear their experiences, their perspectives, and how they've navigated their own lives because I know I don't have all the answers, but I do know There's much we can learn from each other. And that's really what led me to start this podcast, Generation She. It's a space to connect, to learn, and to grow together in real time. And this series is called Becoming Her. It's me continuing that journey in real time, not from the finish line, but from right in the middle of it. And as I continue this journey, I want to share it with you along the way. So once a month, I'll be coming back with an update. What I've been working on, what I've been learning, and how it's actually going in real life, not just what's working, but also what feels hard, what I'm figuring out, and what becoming her looks like for me in real time. And right now, there are still things I'm working through. One of the biggest ones is learning to let other people help me because in my mind, it's always been easy to just do everything myself. Because when I know it's done, because when I know it's done right, and if someone else does it, it might not be how I would do it. And then I feel like I have to go back and fix it. So I'm learning to let go of that and trust that it doesn't have to be perfect. Another thing I'm working through is balancing my time between showing up for my family and showing up for myself. Like, I want to strength train 3 days a week, but a lot of times it ends up being one or two. I want to take time to meditate, but there's always something that needs to get done. And I've noticed I tend to put myself last. So that's something I'm actively working on too. Learning how to take care of myself without feeling like everything else has to come first. And something else I've been thinking about is not letting my whole personality becoming self improvement. I don't want to be that person who's always talking about what I'm doing and or what everyone else should be doing or just constantly focused on exercise or improvement. Want there to be balance. I want to grow, but also I want to just live and be present and not feel like everything has to be about becoming better all the time. And maybe becoming her isn't about changing everything all at once, but just choosing little by little to show up and stay. Thanks for joining me today and listening to my journey on Generation She.